What do we got here? Young Thug. Oh, it's always sad to see young patients in need. But yeah, you know what? I got some ideas. I think we can help you out. Okay, so we're here on the Asia server to look into Young Thug's build. Now, I've never played a spinning dagger build, so this is actually really fun for me getting to work with this. I've already built a version, so I'm backtracking here, but we're going to talk about his and the stuff that I think I would change in mine, and then we're going to talk about his gear and stuff, and then I'm going to show him how to craft some very basic, solid gear to help him move forward. First, as always, we start with the Runeboard. Spinning dagger is a very cool skill. I think it's really solid. I do think he's got a little bit too much stuff that I wouldn't use in terms of link runes. So physical projectile is very solid. Absolutely no disagreement here. Very good choice. I'm not personally a big fan of harmony. I know people use it for absorption and stuff, but we're getting absorption in other places in his... Where is it? Oh, he's moved it. Okay. Hit point absorb on hit is very important, and I would have kept that, but that's fine. We're going to talk about it in my version. Mana Storm is causing probably too many mana problems. I know very early on when I was testing this, I was having mana trouble, so I don't think using Mana Storm here is the right choice, and I changed it in my build as well. It's not necessarily that it's a bad link rune, but when you're not set up particularly well, it does really drain your mana, and that sort of becomes a major issue. Opportunistic Strike is not a bad choice. I feel like he's only using it because he has very low critical rate right now, and a lot of that has to do with not having a particularly good... Although his charms are actually not bad, but overall, there's a lot of things we can do. The crit ring would drastically help. He's got not super great crit on these. His gear critical rate could be better. Not on that one. That's 14. Where was it? Yeah, this one, his gear critical rate is not very good. And I think he's using a... No, that's a Vanished Starlight. So this one's a crit-based dagger, and obviously you're going to want both Vanished Starlights. The stuff I went with is different. The other thing that I don't like on here is Strike. Now, Strike is a solid link rune, but you typically don't put it on your main skill because it's going to lower your attack speed drastically. And if we go and look at his skills, there it is. It's only at 3.64, which is not great. So removing that and putting in other things, we can get that attack speed up. His secondary skill is Frost Shock. Now, I don't feel like Frost Shock is a great choice here. There is virtually no overlap in the skill. It's cold, it's melee, it's area of effect, and your main skill is attacks physical projectile. So we're going to change that to Blade of Death. I think Blade of Death works really well here. It's got a ton of overlap, and it's also a skill that comes with a dagger that works with it. So you're already using daggers. That saves you some work, and it's a really strong dagger if you can get it. So the link runes here obviously won't matter as well because we're going to change those entirely. He's got counterattack, which isn't bad if he was having dodge issues, but on its own, it's definitely not necessary here. It's just eating up mana. He's using Seal of Striking, which is fine, but because his crit rate is very low, look, it's only at 354, I'd be using Seal of Striking, or Seal of Crit Chance, until I could get access to enough crit and then switch back to this, or if you got to 1600 Jewel score and you use both. He's got Veil of Protection, which I've talked about at length. I'm not a big fan of. I think it gets over-talked about, but he's probably really only using it because of the Aquila's Eternity, and he's probably using Aquila's Eternity because he needs a resource cost reduction because his mana cost is very high, and we'll talk about that. He's also got Seal of Elemental Domain, which isn't necessarily bad, but if we look at his defenses, his armor is very low, and his dodge is also very low. So you'd be better off doing dodge or armor, I believe, anyway. His defense enhance is Tenacious Regen, which is what I use as well. But he's also using Improved Senses buff activation when hit. Now, I know he's doing that, he mentioned, because of his lacrima, that he's using the bound Aquila's Sunlight, which he should just be wearing. These are a really good glove. Nothing wrong with putting them in here, but they don't really gain much from this, and it's better to just ignore that line entirely. His movement skill is penetrating slash, which is a solid movement skill. We're definitely going to keep that. Marksman is definitely the right enhanced skill for this. We definitely should put more. He's got a second movement skill, which is really unnecessary, linked to Shout of Provocation, which I feel like he only has because he's having armor issues, but we're going to take care of that with the gear, so we don't have to worry about it in here. He's also got Shout of Justice, which is always good in every build. We are going to keep that as well. So a lot of this is going to change, but we're going to condense it and focus it up a bit. I didn't realize he actually had these gloves until I came back to look. The quiver is something we could definitely get a better version of a quiver in here and get a lot on it. And as for chest piece, there's quite a few better chest piece than this that we could use. I feel like he's only got this because of the movement skill recovery, which we'll take care of because he doesn't have disarm and stuff. But that's that. Overall, his gear is all very beginner gear. There's nothing too well done here. He's doing well with what he's got, but we can do a lot better. We're going to show him how to do a helmet, probably a shoulder, possibly a chest piece, a glove, boots, belt. I'm going to recommend a unique, but we'll also show basic there. And then both rings preferably would be unique ones, but we'll work with that as well. Necklace, I'm not really sure. There is some really good necklaces, but they're all really hard to get, so we'll probably show a necklace as well. Gear's solid for what it is, but obviously it leaves a lot to be desired. Resistances aren't great. Armor's not great. Dodge isn't great. Dampening's actually okay. But yeah, we're going to go from there. I'm going to take a breath, and we're going to get into his Zodiac. A lot of this is pretty okay. It's pretty standard stuff up across the top here. No Zodiac stones. We're going to talk about that. Number 2, across the top for the critical and stuff. That's good. Down here, down to Gold Hunter. Now, this can be a problem early on in terms of health and survivability. So if he is having survivability issues, and I recommend this to a lot of players, take these 2 points out and then put them here. You lose the damage amplification, but losing 20% hit point dampening or gaining 20% hit point dampening is not great early on. And since he doesn't really have a lot of health, I'd probably recommend that change. In here, across the top, he's made this change already in getting physical distortion. Very good choice. He's got 5 points in here, which isn't necessarily doing a whole lot for him because it's area of effect stuff. I feel like we're going to pull these points out and do some stuff with them, and I'll show you when I get to my version. Across here, absolutely nothing wrong with this. In fact, I would go down into +1 mana on every hit to help his mana. And I think I do it in my version. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I did that to help out for the mana until we can get farther in. Up here, across the top, very solid. These 2 points aren't necessarily needed, and typically I don't take them, especially later in the game, because losing 10% maximized damage just to gain 10% critical damage is not an equal trade-off, so I typically don't go for it. And over here, move speed, attack speed, stats are all really not particularly great, so in my version, I steal those 2 points. Down here, he's got Sweep and Annihilation. Sweep's not bad. The weapon range doesn't do anything for us, but the strike damage amp is nice. We definitely don't need these points, though, because there are a lot of area of effect, and there are better ways to get more amplification, and this area amplification isn't helping his main skill, so we're going to pull those in. Down here, this is fine. He's at 500, so that's a good choice. Power of Harmony is also a solid choice, provided that his stats fit, which they do. Into here, there's a lot going on here. Viper is definitely not helping him. Again, area of effect. I know he's probably using it because he's using Frost Shock, but we're not going to make use of that, so we're going to be dropping that and Red Ant. Over here, Deadly Poison is not worth it, but Fang is definitely worth it. The problem with this is the projectile speed dampening is going to be an annoyance just for a little bit of projectile damage, but coming down into Fang for projectile damage and hit points is definitely a good choice. Down here, I personally don't like this tree almost ever. The one side, the left side isn't bad at all, but this side doesn't really do much. The, what is it, double damage is not nearly as good as triple maximized, and it's better to spend those points towards other things and get triple maximized elsewhere rather than getting it in here, because this isn't very good. Last, we've got over to Knife Like Musk, which isn't bad, so we're probably going to keep that. Down here, he's already made the change to get Display of Lightning. He did go down through the bottom rather than going through here. The shock rate is what we're looking for here, and the critical against shocked enemies. He probably went down here for the damage, but it's better to get the crit rate through here. The other thing he could be is trying to get the mana, but this shock rate is a very important thing. No points in 9. You always want to get at least 3 points in 9 to get your penetration up. I go for 5, knowing how important dodge, ignore enemy resist is in the Abyss Gate. So there's that. Got to put points there. Over here, he's got Convert Mana, Acceleration, +2 projectile count. I wouldn't worry about this projectile count nearly as much. I know I'm not using it in my version. I've gone up here because this hit point absorb on hit is very important to your survivability, and I don't think he's getting it anywhere else, so that's probably the best place to put it. Up here, Dance of Life, Sharpness, Perfect Dodge. Nailed it. That's exactly what I have. Up here, he's gone down to this, and this is not bad, and it's quite strong if you have a movement skill that you can constantly keep using every 3 seconds. Sprint's not going to help this, and he doesn't have a really good setup for this. I went a different route with my 3. I went up into Falcon Hunter, and then I went to... where did I go from here? I went Falcon Hunter. I think I went 9% hit point amp, and then the attack critical rate here, and I just dropped all of these. Obviously, there's going to be choices to make here. Attack critical rate and attack critical damage is obviously nice. We are a critical user. You could also go over here for the 5% perfect dodge, which is quite nice. Perfect dodge doesn't get lowered in the Abyss Gate, so that's something to think about. Again, no Zodiac stones to speak of, and Zodiac stones are such a huge thing for your element resist, for your hit points, for hit rate. They're very important. Obviously, he's not super far into the game, but I am going to talk about those. Last up, we've got his avatars. He's got Leo and he's got Spica. Off the top of my head, I cannot remember what the one that we do use here is, but Boreal's always our last one, so it's not bad that he necessarily took Boreal. I would reset them, though, because we're either going to go for the damage on bleeding, because he doesn't have a lot of defenses, so the damage on bleeding might be the way to go. Pulverize effect, or going with the, mental stimulation to get more damage amp, but that's also going to lower his defenses, and that's not something he's got in spades right now, so I think we'll probably go with Pulverize instead. Outside of that, we've got some points in here. Damage amp against enemies affected by physical, which isn't bad. That's a couple of points of thing, but personally, I would be going for things like block rate, block expertise, which he's now put some points into. Block expertise is really solid, and then I would go from there. What else do we have? No jewels really to speak of. That's pretty standard when you're early on. So we'll talk about what jewels I would be putting in at some point. This is actually a perfect weapon, so what I think... you know what? I think he should probably keep this weapon. I'm not even going to tell him to redo this weapon. This is not the best, but it's very solid. And since we want him to use a unique... maybe I won't even bother showing the... yeah, I don't think I'm going to bother showing weapon when we do the thing. Outside of that, I can't see his masteries, which is something we do want to talk about. I can't see his... what are they called? Offerings to the 12 gods. So that's something else we're going to talk about. His charms are good, like his blessing, or sorry, his charms are okay for what they are, but we got to get a better blessing setup than this. And what we're going to be doing is Kathsor, Leo, and Hamal. I set it up on mine. It works great. It's going to give us everything we want. Is there anything else I can talk about without moving off of his build? I don't think there is. Did I talk about his thing? I think he might have changed it. Yeah, movement speed, item drop rarity, and what I typically go for on the last one is strength. The 10% hit points isn't bad, but you do you. Okay, lacrima is also something we gotta talk about. I'm gonna have to remember to take shots of this before I go over. Okay, with all that said, we're going to hop over to my version. I think I'm probably just going to put the playtest video right here. So the next thing you're going to see is me doing a 160 hard map with a very thrown together version of this build. Okay, let's talk about the gear that I have put on this version of the character. Now, this isn't necessarily super optimized or anything. A lot of this is just stuff I had laying around, and I'll explain why the pieces that I picked are good and why you should use them. So, I've already talked about that you're going to be switching your your secondary skill from Frost Shock to Blade of Death. The Hamal's Wreath, or the Transcendent Hamal's Wreath, powers that up, and it's also just a really darn good dagger in the first place. I really recommend getting it. The cheap version, the weaker version, which is totally fine for now, is a tier 14. Very easy to get your hands on just by playing the game. You might already even have one. It's not nearly as good as its big boy counterpart, but it does have a lot of good stuff. It's got a high critical rate to start. Make sure you quality it. All that other stuff. As for the other dagger, we could talk about building a dagger. But the one dagger you have that is ancient is already solid. And again, the other offhand, I recommend getting a Hamal's Wreath, even the baby version. So the one you've got on is fine. It's got a lot of the same stuff this has, other than the additional lightning damage, but you're getting that in the Zodiac, so it doesn't really matter. The helmet is the same helmet you got, just a better version of it. The one and only time you have a reversion to use, hopefully you haven't already used it on something. If not, you can find a reversion from the dismantle shop, which is the best way to get it. You only need one. So again, this helmet is just a better version of the one you've got on. For the record, I'm going to be keeping this character put together. It is Mike Type XS1. I know you're on the Asian server, but this is on the North American server. You can pop on, make a fake character just so you can take a look at this character and his setup. I'll keep it up for a while so you can look at it and get reference. The necklace. This is the same necklace I just showed you how to make, except a little bit better because it's got the flat physical and the other. It's re-rolled something. It's not anything special. This is just basic necklace. There are some really good unique necklaces. It's unlikely you will get them for a very long time. So just a basic necklace is fine. The shoulder here is the armor version of the shoulder I just showed you how to make. Armor, hit points. It's got this totem thing that I don't recommend you use yet, but that is something we're going to talk about as you progress the build. And again, if you watch this video and you make updates and you want to ask questions and go farther with the build, I'm definitely willing to work with it. So yeah, basic same shoulder. Now, the chest piece is something I said that you can get a lot out of a chest piece, but your chest piece is solid for now, and it's probably the least important thing for you to work on. So I would work on making the helmet, the shoulder, the boots, the gloves, and the necklace, and then go from there. When it comes to belt, there are a ton of fairly easy to get uniques that are really good. In this case, the Girth of Harmony is basically a best in slot belt, aside from potion belts, but I'm not going to get into those. Really good belt. It gives you a ton of hit points. It gives you amplification. So it gives you flat hit points, hit point amplification, as well as enhanced skill cooldown and enhanced skill rune effect. Very solid belt. Shouldn't cost you much, or you should be able to find it fairly early on your own. Definitely recommend getting it. The other things that I really strongly suggest you either try to find them on the auction house for cheap or look into the sources to get them. I have a video on it, or you can just ask me. The first one is the Transcendent Castor's Refraction. It's a super good ring because it gives you flat critical rate. This is going to help with your overall critical rate, and it's one of the biggest sources of flat critical you can get that's easy to get. Just about any time there's a selection box. In fact, I think there's a selection box in the current event that you can get it from. Let me check. Found Transcendent. Yeah, so if you get this box for 50 of the pink coins, you can get that ring out of here. But there's a second ring that is, I feel, more important for you, which is this one here, the Bound Transcendent Akuben's Thunder. Spectacular ring across the board, and one of the things it does is give you mana on hit, which is going to help a lot with any mana trouble you have. So I recommend getting this first, and then if you get another selection box, finding the one I just mentioned, which is also in here somewhere, the Castor's Refraction. Let me check. There's a selection box here. Is there? Nope, that's a shard selection box, so that's not going to help you. But you can get one of those two rings, and I recommend the Akuben's Thunder first. I don't know why I'm running back over there to continue the video, but I am. The alternate ring that you can use that is strong is the Band of Certainty. The baby version of it is also good. The Transcendent version is better. It's just going to give you a lot of damage and hit rate and stuff. It's not a particularly... It's potentially best in slot depending on the build, but I think in your case you'd go with the Castor's Refraction and the other. Then the Hamal's Wreath. That's pretty much it for the gear. Again, you can look at these for more advanced versions, and I already showed you the theme. Your lacrima has a quiver. I should have probably shown you how to do a quiver. So I am going to do that right after this. You're also using a chest piece in your lacrima. Now, the gloves you have in your lacrima are spectacular. Just leave them in there for now. Eventually, when you change your lacrima, I would keep those and put those on because they're really good gloves, but they're fine in your lacrima for now. The chest piece you've got in there isn't really doing a lot for you. I would say put your Transcendent Aquila's Eternity in there if it's level appropriate, and then making a dodge chest piece. And again, I'll keep this character up, and if you want to make a really good dodge chest piece, or in your case would be an armor chest piece, because you're going to be doing dodge on both of those, I can show you this process. It's a little more advanced, a little more costly, depending how hard you want to push it, but it is really good to know. In the meantime, the chest piece you have in there isn't very good. It's just really giving you move speed cooldown, which you're going to be getting with the new the new Runeboard, which I'm going to show you in a moment. So, there are a couple that are, like, not bad that you might have. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Now, we'll talk about lacrima, or not in the video, but if you make changes and want to talk about lacrima, I can put you in the direction of what you should do. I am going to show you how to make a decent, very cheap quiver for your lacrima, and I'm going to take a look at what your other piece was. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, super quick gear building tutorial for your gloves. These are super basic, straightforward gloves. They are no frills, but they're going to get your build doing what you want it to do. First, you're going to get yourself a pair of gloves. Honestly, doesn't matter what the base is too much. Yes, there are lots of good bases out there with attack speed and whatever. Just get like a 34. Now, the thing that matters is you want to get one that is item level 141 or higher, because that lets you hit the 13 modifier threshold. Okay, I got a 160 here. Doesn't matter what yours is. Just get a basic pair of gloves. Again, the base doesn't matter too much because you have these Aquila Sunlight, which I would just wear, personally. If you don't want to wear them and you want to keep them in your lacrima, that's fine. But since you have them in your lacrima, we're going to go based on making a new set. So, get your glove, make it rare. Okay, that's the first thing. We're going to be using the Aquila Authority. So you're going to use a Authority Essence. You're going to come down to Aquila, and you're going to use it. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to add modifiers to the piece of gear. In this case, attack speed amplification is the one we care about. Now, depending on the type of gear, you're going to want to start with prefixes or suffixes. In this case, just trust me, I already did the math on it. It's much easier to start with the suffixes. So what we're going to try to do is put the hardest ones to get. Okay, so the ones we really care about are attack critical rate, critical damage, and this. Okay, hardest one to get is going to be attack critical rate. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this to 2 and let it roll until we hit 2 of those values. Very first try, we hit 2. Attack speed amplification, critical damage. In that case, we'd use a coin to try and get the third one. We didn't get it. We got maximized chance. At that point, you can decide if it is worth trying to get the other one. In this case, it very much is. So you're going to do this a few times. Okay, you're going to hit back so that you have 2 options fulfilled out of the 3 you have available. Let it go until it hits 2. Sometimes it takes a while. There we go. Attack critical rate is the most important one. It's also the hardest one to get. Okay, so we got our attack speed, critical rate. We're going to coin. And we got lightning resist. Now, getting the attack critical rate is more important than getting the critical damage because your critical rate is very low. Your crit damage is solid. So getting the critical rate is more important. At this point, you would decide if you are going to try to continue. And you can continue one of 2 ways. You could keep re-rolling doing this, which is the cheapest, easiest, best way to basic craft, and that's or basic enchant, sorry, crafting something different. Now, I would say keep going in this case and just roll until you get it again, or you can use suffix removal to try and get it. We'll try that here. Typically, if you don't have a lot of these, I don't recommend doing this. It's not really worth it. I hit the attack critical, which is bad, so we're going to keep going. Now, the other thing you can try to do, the attack critical is also critical rate, okay? Either of those is going to do more or less exactly the same. If you do attack critical rate, you're going to get a little bit more. So what you can do is take attack critical rate out, leave critical damage and there and put 1 and roll it and hope to get 1 and then see if the second one is something you want. If it's not, just keep rolling. Critical damage, second one is not. Now again, we're looking at suffixes and it's hard to tell what a suffix or a prefix is. Suffix have the slightly thicker line at the bottom and prefixes have the slightly thicker line at the top. Why they're not a chevron like every other game, I don't know. They're crazy, but we'll keep going. Now, we hit maximize damage here. Maximize damage is something you plan to use. So if you hit maximize damage instead of critical damage, that is totally okay. With that said, we're going to keep going. Hopefully hit critical. We didn't hit critical. Back to step 1. Maximized. Chaos resist isn't the worst thing in the world, but we'd really like to hit that attack rate. Or attack crit, sorry. Crit damage, no. Crit damage, no. Crit damage, chaos. We really want that attack speed, though, more than the crit damage. Attack speed amp. Hit rate. Item, nope. Go. Attack speed. Crit damage. Mana regen. Try to remove thing. That's fine. Let's go back. Again, sometimes crafting can take a while. It's worth learning the process, though, because you can make yourself very strong gear for very few resources. Stat requirement. Go to hell, gear stat requirement. Attack critical rate and cold resist. Should I bother? Yeah, we'll take a SWAT. And chaos resist. Chaos resist is something else you should definitely consider taking. Chaos resist is harder to get than other things. I get a lot of mine from white jewels, and we'll talk about that in the white jewel part. So let's assume that you've got your 3, okay? Or this, again, this is good enough for me. It's what I want. Now we got to work on the prefixes. We're only going to be using 3 things for this. Prefix option birth essence, prefix removal essence, and rare imbue essence, the coin. Okay. What we're looking for here more than anything is, again, attack speed. Your attack speed in this build is problematic from what I've noticed with what I've built. So attack speed is the very most important one. Hit points are great, and if you hit other stuff that like hit rate or whatever, that's fine. Most important one is the attack speed. So we're going to use a birth essence, which is going to remove just the prefixes and re-roll them. We hit attack speed. We also hit cold damage taken decrease, which is not terrible. Minion damage, neither of these two are really good. So we're going to use a prefix removal, and it removed our attack speed. So we're going to go back to using birth essence. We got our attack speed back. Bleed dodge chance, not great. Not terrible, but we also hit both 2 things that we don't really care about. Mana, not the worst thing in the world. We don't care about it, though. There goes our attack speed again. Nice thing is here, the reason we started with the suffixes is because getting our prefixes through this way is much, much easier. Attack speed back. Burn dodge chance, bleed dodge chance, which aren't terrible, but I'd really like to see gear armor or hit points would be preferred, because your hit points are quite low. Again, lost our speed. Roll it again. Armor. Armor. Double armor's not the worst thing in the world either. Bleed dodge. Attack speed, gear armor. You know what? We're going to take it. So at this point is when you decide if you are going to use a Vesper. Vespers re-roll just the values of the stuff to see if you can get better values. They keep all the same options. So the armor, dodge, attack speed, attack critical, chaos won't change. It'll just change the tier and that by association, the values associated with it. For a starter piece of gear, I would take this. It's got a lot of 12s in the places that count. 12 on the armor, 12 on the attack speed, 10 on the attack speed amp, 12 on the attack critical, 12 on the chaos. I would just take this. Now, at this point, you would legendary to hopefully get a good legendary modifier. There's a prefix and a suffix you can get. Hit points, element resist, armor are all good. Damage, critical rate, hit rate are all good there. Now, I'm going to put this in my lacrima, so I'm not going to bother going through that step. After that, you can quality and should quality. There's two different kinds. Quality birth essence is up to 10%. And then there is quality modification essence, which goes for an additional. So separate from that 10, it can go from -10 to +20. So you could end up with 30 total quality. Now, since I'm putting this in my lacrima, I don't care about the quality at all because it doesn't affect it. This is all we would do with this. Now, the other thing you can do is crafting. You can come over to the crafting table, put your glove in, find an option like burn chance that you don't really care about, and try to craft it into something like critical rate. Let's see if we can hit something there. Now, you'd have to do this before you legendary. Or no, you can do it after you legendary. Never mind. Don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. I wouldn't worry too much about crafting and high crafting on very basic gear. Really? Come on. Give me something. Why is this game mean when I'm trying to show people stuff? Never mind. It's mean when I'm not trying to show people stuff too. Come on. Give me something at least I would use. The hit point percent, I would definitely have taken if I was you. I guess hit points are, again, one of your issues. Now I'm going to take the hit points. Okay, so there's our glove. From there, again, you can legendary it and try to get something good, and then you can put jewels in it, and that's the whole process. The other thing you can do that I can't do, once it is legendary, you can reuse this right here to get a better authority modifier, this purple line at the top. In cases of gloves, honestly, there's not a lot of really good stuff. So you just take something. What do we even have? I don't even know what I put on gloves. I haven't made a glove in a while. I'm sure there's one that's just like direct damage. Yeah, there it is. So I would just do one. So after you legendary, you can use as many of those to re-roll between these 5 options, and you can get some damage through there. Again, I'm using this for my lacrima, so it doesn't matter. Okay, I'm going to briefly go through a couple of the other pieces that you need to work on and give you a super bare bones way to make those pieces. Helmets. So, helmet is a spot that is really easy to get really solid stuff from with not a lot of effort. So, the same rules will apply that I just talked about with the glove. You want item level 141. Ignore the fact that I'm using this is just for temporary explanation purposes. You're going to want an item level 141 or higher. I recommend going with a pure dodge one because your chest piece is currently armor, and you can make a way better chest piece than the one you're using, the unique one, but it's a lot of effort, and I don't think you're at a point where you should worry about trying to do that. Stick with the armor you've got now, and then if you progress with the build further and really get into the game more, we can talk about optimizing the build beyond what's talked about here in the video. So helmet, we're going to be doing a very basic helmet. This is I always build, the first thing in my season that I build is this helmet. Doesn't matter what the base is, what options it's got. Generally, just go with a pure dodge base. In your case, because your chest is all armor, and you're going to want to balance your armor and your dodge with this character, okay? You're basically going to want enough of both. You're going to be doing armor on your boots, and that leaves your shoulders open for dodge, so you can do armor barrier boots, armor chest piece, dodge shoulders, dodge helmet, and you'll cover all your bases. You'll have all your dodge and all your armor taken care of. So helmet here, first thing we are going to do is put on an authority called Capri. Bam. So now, the things we want are the two things from the suffix. We want critical damage and enhanced skill rune effect. Now, the reason we want these two, one, enhanced skill rune effect is going to modify the power of your marksman enhanced skill. Marksman is going to be your absolute biggest power boost in this game, so that's the thing we want most. Critical damage on its own is fine. You're a critical build, or you can craft it into physical damage amplification, which is what most people do. For the third modifier, really, chaos resist, hit rate doesn't really matter too much. So that's what we're going to start with. We're going to roll to try and get one of these two, and then go over there from there to the other. Hit it. There we go. We got two. We got fire resist. I don't really care that it's fire resist. If you really want to get super optimal about it, you can try to get something else. But whatever the third thing is, generally when I'm starting out, I don't care a lot because I know this isn't a permanent piece that I'm going to try to really push far. But this is still going to be a really good piece for where you are. So you've got your enhanced skill rune effect, your critical damage, and then a third modifier. Okay. From here, you are going to use a legendary upgrade essence. Okay, and then you are going to change the authority to Akuben. And then use a reversion essence. So now it's going to be rare again, but it now has options in the prefixes that it did not have before. In this case, enhanced skill rune cooldown recovery speed is the absolute most important thing on here. We're going to do the same as we did with the gloves, where we're going to use prefix option birth essence, prefix option removal, and rare imbue essence to get what we want. So we're going to use option birth essence to clear what it has, try to see if we get our cooldown. If we don't, another birth essence. Okay. Do that until you see the birth essence. If you get stuff like hit point percent, actually, let's stop and look. Hit point percent, hit points are both things you very much want. If you get hit rate, that's not bad. You're going to need that either. Or gear dodge percent, not the gear dodge flat. The percent one is the one we are going to want. So we didn't get our cooldown. Hit it again. No cooldown. Dexterity is also not terrible. There's our cooldown. See if we can get two good things with it. Hit points, we'll try. No, we lost the hit point. Hit rate, again, not terrible. And we lost our cooldown. If I was you, I would have taken the hit points and the blind dodge rate. I'm going to go just a little bit more here. Not that I'm keeping this anyway. There's hit points. There's hit points, mana. Again, I would probably just take this in your situation. You, once you get moving, can worry about making a much better piece. So, at this point, the next thing is using Vespers. Now, Vespers, again, will re-roll all the values up to their maximums. I always like to look at, if you select Vesper and then go to option thing, it'll show all the mods that are on it. If you click them, you will be able to see each of the maximums that it can hit. So I know that none of these can hit higher than tier 10. So let's hit it. And Vesper will always make one maximum and then re-roll the rest with a good chance to hit. So these two are our most important ones. So we'd like to hit both of those as a 10. So there we go, okay? We got both 10s. We got a 10 on the hit points. Now the critical damage, again, isn't as important that it hits a high value, but if you are planning on crafting it, I will go over here and show you. And I do recommend crafting it. You have to hit at least 8 on this. Otherwise, the physical damage amplification that you want to craft into is locked. So let's go back. Vesper it again. Which is silly. I don't know why I'm doing it. Probably because I got enough Vespers to not work. So there we go. 10, 10, 8. 8 on the hit points is fine. So now we've got a solid helmet. Next step, as the previous one, you want a quality and both qualities. Ideally, you'd really like to hit the dodge percent on here because this is going to give you a lot of dodge. You know what? Heck, let's just, even though I already Vespered, let's try and hit. See if I can get lucky here. Come on, be cool. Be cool for the video. Oh, you're not cool for the video. I'm gonna roll the gear percent so that you can see why it's such a big deal. So not the flat dodge rate, although if you hit flat dodge rate and percent, that's also okay. But we want the percent one because the percent one's going to make a bigger difference overall. In this case, it's not because it's a very low value, but we're going to Vesper it. So there, just to show, I did this to show the difference. If we look at the value of the dodge rate on the helmet, okay, it's 860, but with a high tier dodge rate, it goes up to 2200, 2300. And that's going to make a really big difference to your dodge rate overall. Now, if I already have, I already have a pretty high dodge rate here because I've thrown on some gear. Then I'm going to show you after. So if we look at our dodge rate currently, we are at 120,000. Okay, and if I put this helmet on, it goes up to 140,000. So that's 20,000 armor we're gaining by that little bit extra. Really important to make sure that you get armor and dodge. You're going to need both of them. You both want both of them maxed. So getting the helmet like this is going to be really good. Now, the next thing we do, again, get both qualities on it, and then you're going to work the same as all the other armor pieces. You're going to want hit point prefix, element resist, or gear dodge rate. Any three of those is good. And then a lot of the different ones on the suffixes make a difference. I think in your case, if you hit resource cost dampen, that would be really good. Let's hit it and see. We got gear dodge rate. So now it's up to 3,700. And again, if we go back and look, so we were at 240 or 140. We're at 151. We gained that much more armor. Sorry, dodge. We gained that much more dodge because we hit it. The other thing you can do, again, I talked about it on the glove, is look for an authority modifier that works good. When it comes to this item slot, there's not a lot of good ones. In your case, I would go for item quality or stat plus. Doesn't really matter either way. Also, ones like dexterity or strength are going to be good. So this is a pretty solid piece. Then you throw some jewels in it and you're good to go. Okay, let's move on to the next piece, which I don't know. Shoulders. Next, basic shoulders. These shoulders are one of the worst things in terms of crafting and enchanting. So rather than trying to cram stuff into it, we're just going to make it a dodge thing, okay? Again, like the other one, you want a pure dodge base. You don't want dodge armor. You don't want dodge barrier. Just get dodge, tier 34, whatever you can gain access to. We don't need to worry about putting any authorities on it. Not that there isn't stuff we could put on, but there's also not anything worth putting on unless you're going to be higher in the game and be able to do some more advanced stuff like the shoulders I've got, which are still not even that great. So what we're going to do is just go really bare bones basic. So make it rare. Okay. And we're going to start with prefixes. So we want hit point, dodge rate, and dodge rate percent. Again, we're just going to slam dodge rate onto this to offset the fact that you have nice strong armor, and then this will get your dodge rate nice and high so you can dodge a lot of attacks and not take damage. Set it to roll for 1. Why are you not... Why are you not doing the thing? You're supposed to go to 1. Do the thing. Those aren't any of the thing. There we go. Hit point, but it's also got mana. We don't care about mana. Gear dodge rate percent. Bleed rate. There's double dodge rate. Poison. Again, we could try to remove or we could just keep rolling. I recommend just keep rolling. Dodge rate. Hit rate. Also not the worst thing in the world. If we hit the other, no. Hit rate is something that you will struggle with at some point. Set, reroll. Now you could set it for 2. It'll take longer in between rolls, but you're more likely to get... So we got hit point, gear dodge, coin. Hey, there we got our gear dodge. Other than that, there's not much in terms of stuff on the suffixes that really matters. The only thing you can get in terms of output is physical damage, and it's a pretty darn low roll. It's honestly not worth it for an early on character. So I would just take what you've got here, Vesper it, okay? So this is Chaos Resist is good. It's got some other resistances which you need, and we're going to Vesper it. We hit something decent. I'm just going to take that. Actually, no, never mind. Because again, I'm trying to show the differences. So I really want to hit that gear dodge percent at a high level. There we go. 9 and a 10. So we've got 2,500, 2,300. Again, next step, a legendary upgrade. We hit gear dodge rate again, even better. Again, 3,600 dodge rate from this. You can do another authority. So finding a thing you want. In this case, it's always going to be on Alyssa, the enhanced skill room cooldown recovery speed. So we're going to use that to get the enhanced skill room cooldown recovery speed. There we go. It's pretty low roll. 8 instead of 15. We're not going to worry about it with mine, but there you go. That's what I would do for a basic straightforward shoulder. That's going to get you up and running and doing everything you need to do. And because there's not much in terms of damage output in this position without doing some really advanced stuff, this will get you moving. What else do we have? Boots. Okay, boots. Super basic, straightforward boots. Now, when it comes to boots, there's a lot of things you can do, and the sort of important thing is that they are an armor barrier base. Armor and barrier. Doesn't really matter too much what level they are, which tier they are, sorry. Obviously, you'd like to get them to level 141 or higher so you can get the high tier mods. And some of the tier 34 ones have like movement skill cooldown and other things as an implicit, which is nice to have. Plus, they have more armor and barrier. Although you're not going to get much armor and barrier from boots. The thing we are going to put on here is, let me see if I can find it again. I just had it a second ago and I already forgot. Cathsor. So the Cathsor modifier, so we can get attack enhanced skill rune effect. So we're going to put that on. We're going to start with the suffixes. Same deal as all the other ones. We're going to get attack enhanced skill rune effect. And then we're going to get totem effect range. Now, you're not even a totem user. You're not going to use totems, but totem effect range crafts into something very strong. So that's why we want it. Outside of that, chaos resist, hit rate, whatever you get as your third thing is fine. We don't really care too much. Movement speed does not fall below base value is cool if you get it, but it's a 0.2 chance, so good luck. You probably won't get it. So we're going to put those two in, let it roll. There's totem effect range. Nope, we didn't get our other one. Let it roll. Attack enhance and chaos. That's nice. And hit rate. Not what we need. Attack enhance and boop. Nope. Nope. Doop, 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 doop. Attack enhance. Hit rate and hit. Nope. Not what we want. Totem effect range. Nope. Again, any of the resists, if you hit them, are fine. But you want to make sure you get totem and attack. And this is the easiest way to do it. Cheapest way to do it. Not easiest way, cheapest way to do it. Costs you very little. As well as, if you're early in the game, this is going to help you generate enhance mastery, which is really strong. Attack enhance. Totem effect range. There we go. So we got our attack enhance. Poison resist is fine. Who cares? And totem effect range. And now we got to get our prefixes. Nice thing about prefixes, there's not a lot you want, and they're easy to get. So if we look through, the most important one is movement speed, obviously, and it's 21% chance. If we hit gear, armor, barrier, sure, fine. Hit rate or hit points would be ideal. Both of those would be your best in slot for this very basic version of the boot. So we're going to do that here. Boom. Melee damage, not going to help you, unfortunately. There are some damages, area damage, melee damage. Neither of those is going to help you because you're not area or melee. Perfect attack dodge, perfect spell dodge are actually pretty good if you happen to get them, because perfect dodge doesn't get modified, so getting that on boots is really nice. So melee, obviously we're not going to bother keeping that because it's not going to help us. Get rid of that immediately. Coin. Hit points, nice. Chill dodge, area damage, again, a bummer. Movement speed. Movement speed's so easy to get, though. Typically, if I get neither of the other two I'd like, I just use a birth. Melee again. Nope. Armor barrier, not terrible, but again, a lot of armor positions, getting these kind of modifiers makes a big difference. Boots do not give you much in terms of this, so getting even the percent-based one is not very helpful. It's something you take if there's no other option. Area damage. Keeps giving me area damage. You wouldn't believe how many times I try to get those on certain boots and just get them like crazy on here when I don't want them. Hey, there's perfect situation, okay? Hit point, hit rate, movement speed. Now again, as always, we are going to Vesper. Things to Vesper in terms of importance: the attack enhanced skill rune effect and the totem effect range, and then obviously your move speed. So we're gonna hit some decent stuff here. That's pretty good. I would take that. These are more important than the move speed for a basic boot. Following the standard procedure after that, legendary, you hope to get the hit points, element resist, that kind of thing. Perfect attack dodge is fine. And then you take a look at the authority on the top and see if there's anything you want. The resource cost reduction is something I would probably use in your case because it feels like you're having a little bit of mana trouble. So getting that on here. There we go. 10% resource cost reduction. Very nice. And that's pretty much it for boot as well. What else do we have to look at for basics? I don't think we have anything else for basics to look at. I'm going to go check, and then I'm going to talk about the build some more. Okay, last piece we're going to talk about basic, straightforward crafting for is the necklace. We're going to start with the Capri Authority, because it's got 10% chance to gain damage amp for 3 seconds on every hit, which means you're basically going to have full uptime on that as long as you're hitting very fast, which you will be. Okay, and we are going to start with the suffixes, as we have with the others. Damage amp, chance, and then you're going to want skill rune cooldown recovery speed. After that, the rest are all pretty good stuff. So we're just going to try to hit one of those two. We already have one, and then try to get the second one. Skill rune cooldown recovery speed and dexterity. Not what we're looking for. There's our skill rune cooldown recovery speed, chance, and strength. All very solid. Next thing we want to do is prefixes. Now, prefix, the most important one, is flat physical damage. And we already got it here. The thing with flat physical damage is it's a very low chance to roll. So it's harder to get. Now, you can also get percent-based physical damage, which is not nearly as good as the flat. I know that doesn't necessarily make any sense, but that's the way it is. So we've got our flat physical. We're going to try to get rid of one of these to get something cool. And mana, nothing we care about. And of course we got rid of the physical. So we're going to re-roll the prefixes. Now, if you get something like cold damage, it's mutually exclusive with physical damage. So you won't be, if you start going and you get a cold damage, just stop. Or a fire damage or poison damage. Any of the other damages, it's not worth continuing. Got a debuff dodge chance. Ugh. No, those are all terrible. Element damage is also mutually exclusive with the percent physical damage. So same thing. If you get this, just immediately re-roll. Hit points. Very nice to see. Hit point percent. Nice to see. If we could remove this and get one of the two physical or one of the two damages, that'd be really good. Hit points come up enough. Focus on getting one of the damages. Fire damage, mutually exclusive. Element damage, mutually exclusive. Element damage, mutually exclusive. I swear. There we go. You know what? I would take that. Hit point on kill, which is not the worst thing in the world. Hit points and flat physical. Standard procedure, do Vespers. You want to make sure you hit the amplification. The flat physical is the most important. And then the cooldown recovery would be nice. So we hit that. There, that's solid. 11, 11, 13, 13 on the strength. Nice on the hit points. We're going to legendary. And legendary things, we're going to want attack speed primarily, and then crit rate or crit damage. But again, you take what you can get until later. We got element damage, nothing we can do about that. The authority modifier at the top, we're going to look for damage or physical damage. They roll to the same value, so it doesn't really matter. There we got our damage. There's no quality to worry about with jewelry, so there you go. That's a solid starter necklace with very little cost and very little effort. Now we're going to go to the gear I have on and talk more about the uniques that you should be trying as best you can to get. Some of them are really cheap, some of them are more expensive, some of them you can get in selection boxes and stuff, so we'll go from there. Okay, super quick quiver tutorial for your lacrima. First of all, remember that the item level of your item has to be equal to or lower than the lacrima you put it into. So if you are at, I'm not sure what your lacrima is off the top of my head. I don't think I took a picture, or did I? I did not take an item level. That's fine. Just make sure you get a lacrima, a quiver that is lower level or equal to than the one you're using. So first thing, we're going to use something we haven't used yet. We're going to do Cathsor, and we're going to get projectile amplification. Okay, so we're going to put Cathsor on. Now, the problem with projectile amplification in this case is the chance to get it by rolling is abysmally low. So, because of that, we are going to use a thing called an Alyssa Essence. Alyssa Essence will guarantee you that modifier and hopefully give you something else good as well. So we're going to go down, take projectile, and we're going to hit it. We're going to see what we get. Now, depending on how many of these you have, what you should aim for here is flat physical damage. Again, it's a fairly low chance to get it yourself, and it's very unlikely you're going to get it through this. If you could get attack speed, hit points, those would be also good. Neither of these is good, so we are going to use another Alyssa. Enemies affected by status effect is good. You are causing all kinds of status effects. Because you're physical, you're causing bleed and stun. You have shock and bind on there. I'm not sure what other damage types you have currently. I don't think you have any others. But that's not terrible. We'd really like to try and get more than this, though. So we'll use it. Again, cold damage. Gonna block physical. Cold damage again. Hit rate and hit speed, or attack speed. That's fine. Attack speed is something I had to do a little bit of work to get it to 5.0, which is the cap for attack speed, and you should be hitting. So that's fine there. And then we got to look at suffixes. Now, suffixes I already know on here are going to be critical damage, attack critical rate, and they're much nicer to hit on here than they are on the gloves, say. So we're going to be doing that down there, using a suffix option birth essence this time. Critical damage, nice to see. We'd really like to hit that critical rate as well. Critical damage is back. I just realized. Another mutually exclusive thing is if you get chance to deal double maximized damage on hit, it will block critical rate. So keep that in mind. Reroll. I know I'm going very fast through all of this, but again, if you have questions, do not hesitate to ask. Critical damage, chance to deal sentry double, that'll block it, I think anyway. Physical percent, that's a low chance to get, so it'd be nice if we could keep that. Attack critical rate. See, now at this point, I would probably just take this. The physical damage and the critical damage are going to roll more or less the same. And it's not going to, at a low level, it's not going to make much difference. You're not worried about min-maxing stuff. So I'd probably just take the physical. Again, standard procedure here. You're going to Vesper until you get the things you want at a high level. This one is the most important. Attack critical would be nice. Attack speed, physical. Come on. There we go. That's pretty good. No, that's not. Never mind. I'm going to take it anyway. Quality. Make sure you quality. It's going to affect the base attack damage of this. You can quality at any point, so it's not important when you do it. After that, legendary upgrade essence. Again, hope for the standard stuff. Hey, critical damage and element damage. Element isn't going to help us. No, never mind. Sorry. Do not legendary this. Stop myself before I say it. If you legendary it, you can't put it in the lacrima. So, don't do this before you put it in the lacrima. But this will give you some projectile amp, some attack speed, some critical, some physical, and it's going to be better than what you've got in there, because I did a quick look and it wasn't very good. Okay, so now I'm going to go over the Runeboard and Zodiac and other changes and things you should do, and then we can go from there. Okay, let's talk about the Runeboard. Now, I have left this side empty because you currently had that open. There's nothing wrong with having this not filled in. You don't need to worry about squeezing every single space in. This setup will be fine, and then later, again, if you continue to play and want help beyond this, let me know and we can work from there. So, I've got these two are backwards. On yours, they're the other way, but my spell activation on hit goes this way. It doesn't make a difference where those are positioned. So you got Spinning Dagger. Confidence is going to help you with your current low attack speed problem. Later on, when you get the build more established and you start getting jewels and stuff in your gear, which I just realized I forgot to talk about in the gear section, you can switch to extract earth energy, because white jewels can give you earth energy effect and it can be very powerful. But for now, I would just go with confidence. It's going to give you a lot of attack speed and some damage with no downside. Really solid. Then you're going to put on Pierce Wound and Piercing on your Spinning Dagger. These two work really well together, especially with this, because you'll be able to just blast right through whole groups of enemies, and they'll be taking a debuff that makes them take more physical damage. Very solid stuff. Also, the more pierce count you have on here, you're going to be gaining extra damage from your marksman, because it gains extra pierce count as you level it up and increase its effect, and then those will translate into direct damage on here. Additional physical is something I typically just say go with. It's really strong and it has no major downsides, so I would go with that. Then you've got Amplify Physical Projectile, which you already have. I have it shared between that and Blade of Death, which is going to be your new triggered skill. Obviously, you've got spell activation on hit. The Awakenings, just for the, again, purpose of going through them, we've got Source Awakening on physical, Origin Awakening on confidence, Source Awakening on piercing, Pierce Wound, Verity, and Origin on Amplify Physical Projectile. On to Bladed Death, it's got the Origin Awakening. Now, you can use different awakenings than this, but I feel Origin works best with it. So what it does is, instead of Blade of Death shooting all around you, it shoots in a cone. Your Spinning Dagger already shoots in a cone. It overlaps really well, and even though you don't have coverage behind you or anything, having it all go in one direction and getting 20% bleed damage is really solid. The other option is Source, also a very good choice. Personally, I kind of like this one, but Source is more or less going to do the same. You're going to get extra projectiles and extra amp. I wouldn't use Verity. So Origin if you want a cone, Source if you want all around you. The stuff I have on here, we kept Strike, which you had previously on Spinning Dagger. We've put it on to Blade of Death, because it doesn't cast. So even though this would slow you down with your main skill, the triggered skill doesn't get that, so it's just a really solid source of damage. Again, another copy of physical damage, which is just very solid in general. And then one that is a personal choice of mine that I really like is spot weakness gains damage the closer you are to your enemy, which I feel when I play this build anyway, I'm more or less right up in my enemy's face anyway. The other thing it does is give you a stacking buff for your dodge rate and increases the max dodge chance, which lets you get over the 75% cap and lets you dodge that much more. Again, I prefer this. You could use a bunch of other things in this place, but this is what I've gone with, and I feel like it works really well. Last is projectile acceleration. It doesn't give a lot of damage, but it does help it hit enemies faster because it's a slow attack versus your spinning dagger. This makes them more or less go the same speed, so they're hitting enemies at the same time. So that's your main skills. Give me a second to catch my breath and we'll move on. Moving on from there, let's talk about your toggles. Again, you can lay them out however you want. You don't have to lay them out the same way as me, but there's reasons why I've put certain things in certain places so you can optimize what you get out of it. So we've got our 3 current toggles up here. Seal of Defense, Seal of Critical Chance because your critical chance is very low, and Illusion Axe. Illusion Axe is only here to do 2 things. 1, to activate lower armor on enemies. Another reason you want to get close is so that Illusion Armor is hitting, or Illusion Axe is hitting and lowering their armor. It'll also give you Essence Drop Chance Increase and Item Drop Rarity. The area of effect is just so it's more likely to hit them. All 3 of them are connected to dampen resource cost, which you get from the guild. You can also get it from other sources. If you're having trouble finding it, let me know. The Seal of Critical Chance is connected to an improved technique. Again, hard to get if you don't know where it is, let me know. And Enhanced Seal Range. Enhanced Seal Range doesn't matter because you don't the size of it, but it also does give 10% aura and seal effect at Legendary. It also doesn't need to be leveled up. You can keep it at level 1 Legendary and it will do everything. There's no reason to level this up like I do, other than completionist, you're a crazy person like me. Seal of Defense is just to make sure your armor is capped. If you go with the setup that I've given you, your armor might be a little low because you've only got the 1 dedicated armor piece. So Seal of Defense will bring your armor up to where it needs to be. It's also connected to Improved Technique to give both of these extra levels. It's Improved Technique doesn't need to go beyond level 40. If you go beyond level 40, it does absolutely nothing for you. At 40, it is at its maximum. So, lower armor, Verity Awakening, increased Essence Drop Chance doesn't have an awakening. Area of Effect gets Origin Awakening for more area. Illusion Axe has the Verity Awakening for some reason. Oh, for more area of effect. The increased item drop rarity doesn't have an awakening. Dampen resource cost has the Source Awakening, which I think is the best one. I've never really gone too much into testing it, honestly. Seal of Defense Verity, Seal of Critical Chance Verity, and Enhanced Seal Range doesn't have it. So there's your toggles. The next most important things are your attack and defense enhance. You already have the right one, Marksman. I would connect it with these 6 things. There is a lot of reason to go with a toggle, a totem thing, but with your sort of limited space, this is what I would go with. So first, time acceleration with the Source Awakening for as much cooldown as you can get. Decrease duration, which sounds counterintuitive because you want the duration to be up, but this gives so much skill rune effect that losing the duration, which is already fairly low to begin with, isn't a problem. It just gives you a lot more effect for it. Decrease or increase duration with the Verity Awakening for the opposite reason, to give you some duration. Improved Technique will give it extra levels. Enhance effect with the Source Awakening will increase its effect. And then Versatility, another one that doesn't need to be leveled up, but you can if you want. At Legendary, gives attack enhanced skill rune duration, which is very nice to have. Marksman with the Source Awakening. Can't remember what yours has, but I do it, again, purely for the skill rune cooldown recovery speed. the more uptime, the better. Now, you can go with enhanced skill rune effect as well. That's totally acceptable. Or even duration if you want. Any of these are good, but generally I go with the Source Awakening. The other one, your defense enhance, you already have it on your board, is Tenacious Regen. Now, Tenacious Regen, I use it as an emergency heal rather than the regen effect. I use it for when I take a big hit, and then I use it, and it'll almost fill me up. With the, you have it chained to the shared with the marksman, so that decreased duration, again, it's going to give it a ton of effect and reduce its duration. That's important because you can't use it again until it gets back off of cooldown. So having a big heal and then a short duration is really what you want with that skill. The other thing, time acceleration, purely to get the cooldown on this as low as possible. I've got it down to 3.4 on this current version. Next, we've got your 2 shouts. I'm connected Shout of Terror to time acceleration so that I can, again, the more things you can have using the same one, the better. Shout of Terror causes enemies to take extra damage when they are in its effect. This is why, again, you're going to want to be close. I've also got it with Hushed Shout for maximum cooldown, and I've connected it to Strike as well so that it will do a little bit more damage. It's not going to do much in the way of damage, but why not get a little more out of it? And Predator's Roar. Predator's Roar, much like Shout of Terror, will help enemies take more damage when they are hit by it. And then you've got it on buff activation on hit, so when you dive into a group and get hit, it goes off automatically. You don't have to think about it. The other one, buff activation on crowd control with Shout of Justice, with the Source Awakening, just to break you out of crowd control when you get crowd control. Last, you have your movement skill, which really only needs 2 things. Disarm Verity and use count Source. You can also put momentum on here because you're going to be diving into groups, and if you hit enemies with it, you're going to get damage taken dampening, which is really nice for diving into groups. I'm using Verity Awakening for the extra uses. With its cooldown being 0.85 and an 8 max use count, you can basically use this thing infinitely. With that, the last thing we do want to talk about is the rune stones. You get them from raids. The ones you would ideally like to get are really just things that affect 3 things. Your main skill, either damage to your main skill, crit rate to your main skill, or extra levels to your main skill. And then you want your seal, okay, so your critical chance seal, or if your critical chance gets to a point where it is where you would like, which is about 600 flat crit rate is generally an accepted area, you can switch this to Seal of Striking, same thing. And the last one you want is Marksman. Anything you can put on Marksman to increase its effect, its duration, its level, any of that stuff would be good. So that's it. Woo, for the rune board, let's talk about the Zodiac. Let's talk about your relic and avatars. So, I had talked briefly in your overview that there's a couple of different ways you can go here. And what I would recommend for you is resetting, okay, and taking Spica as your active. You can get Pulverize effect, which is going to give you 10% damage amp against bleeding enemies. Every enemy you hit is going to be bleeding immediately. This is a really good choice because there's no downside. It's 10% damage amp, no downside, which I think is really good. You're also going to be using it for powerful damage. And then Hamal, you can use it for a couple of different things. I would go with stats. You could also go with just dexterity if you want to lean more into the dex. Actually, you know what? Go with dexterity. Don't listen to me. Go with the dexterity. The stats is, no, because the stats is going to give you more health. Okay, go stats. It's not amazing or anything, but it is something solid. And then Leo for the attack speed and movement speed. Finally, Boreal, when you get your last one, you can only get it to level 15. So enhance hit points, the only thing it's good for. With your core and soul gem, which you can only get from the pirates, get an armor or dodge for the first one, and then a dex or strength for the second one. There's a lot of good options here. You get ones with hit points, you can get ones with hit point amp, you can get one damage amp. It takes a while generally to get a good one of these, but they are definitely worth it. Next up, the Zodiac. Now, you had a pretty good overall Zodiac, and I am going to go through it. The only thing is I've thrown in Zodiac stones so that you can see which ones you should try to get, and you very much should try to get these because they are going to make a big difference to your element resist, your hit points, which is going to be important, and things like hit rate or block expertise. Yes, you can block even though you don't use the shield. So across here, that's pretty standard. The first stone, you want the damage stone with just damage. I haven't bothered to roll this yet, but you're going to want hit point, hit rate, element resist, those kinds of things. Number 2, you've got it across the top, exactly where it should be. You're going to either want armor or dodge. Whatever one you have that is lower. Doesn't really matter which one, just get one. And then again, hit point, element resist. Over here, I've gone down into Gold Hunter because I know I can. I talked about it in yours that you should, if you're worried about hit points, take these 2 points out and put them up here. If you're not worried about it, keep it Gold Hunter and get the extra amp. You want either mana potion effect or enhanced potion effect here, depending on what you're going to use. Trait 4, you already made the change to go up through physical distortion. You have it up here with the extra mana. I'd go down here for the extra 5 hit points. It's only 5 hit points, but I'd go there. The stone here is a hit point stone when 8 or more are activated. And we're going to do 3 points here in Prel. Damage on attack, and then whatever resist is your lowest. I just went to cold because it was straight across. Whatever one you have the lowest of, take that, and then wedge attack for a little bit of attack speed, a little bit of hit, and a little bit of damage on attack. That gives us our 8, so we can activate it, and we can move on. Up here, you've got these 2 points. I take those out because later on, you're going to want to get maximized chance, which we're going to talk about when we get to your charms, and this is detrimental. Gaining critical damage to lose maximized damage is not worth it. Maximized damage is much, much more valuable. And getting over to Rainbow Bridge, this stuff isn't particularly important. These 7 points over in Lightning are for group defense to give you 12% damage taken decrease. Your damage dampening is pretty low right now. As you progress and get more dampening from other sources, we can talk about taking this out. But I would go with this for now. As you make it farther into the 140, 150, 160 levels, you'll start taking hits, and this is going to help a lot with that. Down here, we've gone across hands quicker than light, muscle strength explosion. Pretty standard stuff. Up here, we've got 3 points into Dewdrop down to super speed, purely for the attack speed amplification. Once your attack speed on your page, if you look at your skill, once this number is 5.0, you can see if you can take it out. In fact, let's check right now. Can I take this point out and it will still have me at 5.0? If it does, we can move on and I don't have to worry about that. I can reclaim that point. So I've dropped below. I'm at 493. So for the moment, I'm going to keep that. 5 is maximum, and you really want to be at that maximum number. Put that point back in. Bam. The stone is attack, aura, and seal effect. Obviously, it's the best one. Down in 6, I've taken out these points here because they really weren't doing anything for you. You can keep sweep. It's good strike amplification. You get a little bit of attack and cast speed and some resource cost reduction. A little bit. It's not bad. The strike is okay. Up here, I talked about it in your section. Dot dodge chance, crowd control dodge chance, or status effect chance. I would go with dot or status effect because you're basically immune to crowd control because of your Shout of Justice. Down in 7, attack enhanced skill rune effect stone. I've taken out this stuff over to Red Ant and Viper because it doesn't do anything for you. And I've taken out discharge up here. We're just going into Fang to get the projectile amplification. Over here, we've taken these 5 points in Spider. This is going to help you stun enemies, and it's going to help you do more damage. It's going to give you 10% damage amp while they are stunned. Very solid crowd control choice, very strong. Definitely take it. Down here, same things. Will of the Strong, Path of Harmony. If you get to a point where you get to 500 dexterity, which is not too hard to get, come over into Path of Swiftness, even if it means moving this point over there, because it's 2% amp versus 5% amp. Oh, already did you. In here, Knife Like Musk. You already had it. It's good. Down here, over to Raging Particles. It's going to give you physical damage amplification and 1% chance to ignore enemy armor. Early on, ignoring enemy armor isn't It's fine, but it's not necessarily that big of a deal. When you get to Abyss Gate, this becomes a much, much bigger issue. You definitely want to get this. The other points you had in here, I took out for other purposes. They're better serving you elsewhere. I think most of these went up into your group defense. Down here, you have the lightning. Great, until you get another way to get this, stick with this. You won't be able to actually activate this stone, so it doesn't matter which stone you get here. Just get one with 3 modifiers, get the hit points, get the element resist, whatever you need. Last, over in 9, you always want to make sure you get 3 points over to something like Storm of Destruction. It's going to give you armor penetration, and it's going to let your penetration go above the normal cap, which is really good, and the stone is more armor penetration. Great stuff. Last up here, you've gone down into projectile count. I would go up here to make sure you go through the hit point absorb. The extra projectiles I don't feel are necessary with the playtesting I've done. Convert mana, acceleration, very solid. The stone you want to get is either the damage one, like I've got here, or a strength or dexterity. In trait 2, Dance of Life, sharpness, and over here is fine. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Stone you want is damage taken dampening. Preferably damage taken dampening because that does physical, element, and chaos. Last up, I've gone up here. Now, I kept this because you have it, and with the version that I'm using with the extra move skill and stuff on your, whatchamacallit, your penetrating slash. With this setup, again, the cooldown is less than a second. You have 8 uses. You should be able to keep that buff up whenever you need it. Dash into a group, you'll get the 20% amp, or 30% amp, and then next group dash again so that you can keep that up. If you don't want to worry about keeping this up, there are going into hit point amp or going over to here, even going back down into the critical, but this is pretty strong as long as you have the ability to use it. And then over to Falcon Hunter so that Falcon Hunter happens when you attack so you can get strength out of it. Physical damage amplification. Damage amp is fine, but you'll get more if you do physical damage amplification. Last up is our points. Strength to 500, and then try to get dex to 500. Doesn't really matter too much which one of these you put them into. Once you get both of these to 500, put the rest into strength for more hit points. Okay. That is those sections. We've got a couple others. We got charms and other stuff. So let's go do those. So let's talk about your charm setup. Sort of the optimal setup for you is 230 Hamal, 190 Cathsor, 190 Leo. That's what I've got here. It's a really easy setup in terms of what to build. Once you get a T10 star, put 2 Hamal, 2 Cathsor, and 2 Leo into it. Obviously, you want to put stuff that's going to give you the good stats in the star. If you were on North America, I would just make you one, but 2, 2, and 2 in there. And then when you get your charm slot upgrade to max, this one here, the blessing effect, you put it on, it will basically take care of the bulk of getting your blessing effect. Then with your actual charms, you do 2, 2, and 2 again, and you put the one that is blessing, so the blessing value one, on one of the Hamals. And that way you'll get 230, 190, 190. Very straightforward and easy to set up. Stuff you should try to get for your charm slot upgrades. For your all slot, there are a couple of different good options. I would probably start with something like Critical 2, and then as you gain more legendary modifiers that are maximization, we're going to talk about that more in a second, you would switch to this one here, the Exclude Legacy Legendary prefix option plus 165, because that's going to boost all of your modifiers that are there, all these strike damage and maximization chance up a lot. It's going to make them much, much stronger. In fact, I'm going to do that now because I can, so I will. That's what we're going to do. You are crit. That works perfect. I can just slap crit back on there. Where the heck did it go? I lost my crit. Seriously, where did it go? Crit 2. There it is, crit 2. You go on there. Okay. Some other ones you should be looking for in terms of charm slot upgrades. Again, blessing effect is important. Critical 2 is good. The important thing to note is critical 2, you have to have 2 modifiers on it that are critical. Otherwise, it won't work. T9 or above is always a really good one. Now, in regards to the T9, they're talking about the modifiers and the star. So if you put this on, if I put this on this one, the dot wouldn't gain the boost. Not that I care about the dot. Suffix and prefix are both very solid choices. The legendary that I'm currently using is okay if you don't have a good modifier on the legendary. Otherwise, don't use it. I don't know why I currently am using that. Probably because I don't have a 7. That'd be my... The other thing that is very counterintuitive is this T7 mod is really good, but it doesn't mean that you have to use a T7 charm. It has to do with the values of the modifiers that are in that charm. So you can have a tier 10 charm with tier 7 modifiers, and this is a best in slot. Weird, I know, but that's how it works. Maximize 2 is also really good if you have one that has 2 maximize modifiers. I don't see any on here that are double max. Oh, nope, that one right there is double max. I'm going to put you on there. And then I can get rid of that crummy one, because I can put whatever the heck I just took off of there on the one that is the crummy one. I know what I'm doing. It's not my first day. There's prefix. Put you up here. Bam. And now our strike damage amp went from 7% to 12%. 5% amp just by making one change. So, again, there's some good stuff. There's a lot of work to do to get these at max. But once you do, there's your charm setup, your basic charm setup. Crit rate, crit damage on everything. Actually, it was too quiet. I heard it that time. I knew it was coming that time, Devious. You're not going to get me. Also, I'm so cranked up right now. Crit rate, crit damage, and then look for the absolute most important one is maximize chance. These will let you do triple maximize damage, and it's going to drastically increase your damage. Try to get as many of those as you can. Strike damage amplification is a good secondary, but try to get 3 or 4 with maximization chance, because then your character, if you go look at mine, will have, I have 23% chance triple maximized, and that's my only source of triple maximized is my charms. So that means 25% of the time, I'm doing 3 times as much damage. It's really strong, very worth getting. What else do we have? So, Soul Stone, when you can get a Soul Stone, get one. These only drop in the Abyss Gate, probably a ways off. You don't have to really worry about those too much. Your Mastery is something we want to talk about. So, what I've done here is pretty standard for what I do. I do, in the Enchant Mastery, 10 points into Seasoned Attack, 10 points into Seasoned Attack 2. This is going to directly affect the base damage of your weapons. It's very strong. After that, at least my new version that I'm using, I do 3 points into Strong Body, which is just going to give you some armor and dodge, and then 8 points into Enhanced Skill Rune Duration, and then my final point I put into Damage Amplification. That's my current setup for there. For Alchemy Mastery, this is going to help you a lot with your mana. Start straight down the middle, okay? Mana Potion Recovery Speed, Mana Potion Effect, Mana Potion Recovery Speed, and then when you can get to it, the Spring of Inspiration. Every time you use a mana pot for 5 seconds, you have reduced mana cost. Really effective. Other than that, I go down the left side for the unique potion stuff. And then when you get to here, take Absolute Perfection. When you use a health pot, it's going to clean any debuffs, clean any dots off of you and make you immune to dots for 1 second. Very strong. Okay, last I want to talk about the offerings to the 12 gods. You are going to want 3 different values. Okay, so 1, you're going to want a Vesper. Okay, 1 point into Vesper. Okay, you're going to put more in later. 1 point into Vesper. Okay, 1 point into, give me a second, I gotta find it. Spica. Okay, 1 point into Vesper, 1 point into Spica, and then 1 point into Alyssa. After you have those 3 points, pick either Vesper or the other one I already forgot, Spica, and max it out. Okay, but that's how you're going to do it. If you manage to max that one out, work on the other one. The reason you're putting 1 point into each one first is because they give you a big upfront boost, and then everyone is after that is just a little bit. But getting 1 point into those 3 is going to be really strong. What else? I'm not going to bother going into Rune Master points too much because they're not something you need to worry about. You can just throw them wherever you feel you need them for now. And if you get to a point where you're farther in the game and you're more advanced, we can talk about optimizing. Jewels is the last thing. So obviously jewels are going to be very strong and you're going to want to get them. When it comes to jewels, black in every single piece of gear is best. Rings, amulet, and belt can have 2 slots natively, so you're going to want a black and a white. Don't worry about getting star jewels. Initially, they're very hard to get. You're not going to have a lot of them early on. With white jewels, there's a bunch of good things to get here to help you offset the rest of your gear. First is element resist. You can get like 30% element resist from 1 jewel if you get a tier 3 and roll it correctly. Chaos resist, same thing. 1 or 2 chaos resist jewels will cap your chaos resist, and then you don't have to worry about it forever. You have a couple options for white named jewels, which you can only use 1 if it has a name. So ones you want are cheap tricks for more attack speed, hands quicker than light for more attack speed, and jewel skin for more physical and armor. Outside of that, if you get red and green and blue jewels, they're fine, but replace them with either black or white as you are able to, because these will make a big difference in your stats, and then they also help with your jewel score, and your jewel score gives you a whole bunch of crap too. I think that is everything. I think that's the whole thing. If I missed anything, obviously please let me know. If you have questions about the build, don't hesitate to ask. I love working on these things, and I hope people enjoy them. If you want your build looked at in this kind of thing, first, please take a look at recent Dr. Dummy videos to make sure there isn't one that's already for your build, and save me the trouble of having to, because there's only been like 3 this season or whatever, and there's older ones that are at least going to give you a rough idea, but if you want a new one, take a look. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, pet cats, eat broccoli, and you'll see me next time.